With a dream of being an international basketball star and already being acknowledged in the German league, his home country, and coming to USA, joining the NBA, already facing his 13th year in the Dallas Mavericks, Dirk Nowitzki. As a rookie being intimidated by top-class NBA players and even having thoughts of going back to his home country, he did not give up, and in each and every game, he did his best and made his way up the ladder to higher positions. As a result, he was the highest scorer on the team for 10 years and at the same time led the team to the playoffs every single time and got recognition for his contribution in the regular season. With the mindset of surpassing other players, got the title MVP in the year 2007. Every time he would play on the court, his offensive method would be the core to his game, and the opposition teams would try to stop him. They would struggle with Nowitzki's offensive play. Not just in the paint zone was he lethal. Shots from outside the paint zone at the height of 7 feet tall were just as lethal. And at that height, defenders had to always be ready to block his shot in any way possible, but would have to be careful on focusing on his shot alone, because he would use a fake, and even with the help of other defenders, it was not easy to stop his ability to drive the rim for the point. And his shot release may be considered slow compared to others, but he would use a fadeaway shot to get points nevertheless. And even when time wasn't on his side, he would make clutch shots for successful buzzer beaters, making the opponents he faced even more frustrated. And the fact that he was a big man, shooting almost 3 times more shots from outside the paint than he was from inside the paint, Nowitzki would use his teammates as a useful distraction and would use the screenplay to his advantage. With a high basketball IQ, his positioning without the ball would be near perfect, and when defense double-teamed him, he would thread the needle to his teammates and was great at making team play work, making defenders run around feeling useless. And when it comes to making defenders lose their minds, Nowitzki had a special weapon for that. And that would be when he posts up with his back turned and used his signature one-legged fadeaway shot. As an upgraded version of the normal fadeaway shot, with one leg lifted, it gives a meter of space to shield from defenders, also making defenders more vulnerable to getting fouls. With the power of offense mixed with a shield, the one-legged fadeaway shot was impossible to guard. And even when giving space with one-hand guarding, Nowitzki, using all of his physical traits, would use that to his advantage, giving him a wide-open chance. Aside from that, Nowitzki would have many offensive abilities, and when it comes to offense, he was one of NBA's finest, being able to lead his team to the playoffs. But all the players together, as a team, they were lacking 2%, and would fail in attempts at the NBA championship, and Nowitzki would now be 32 years old, thinking it might be his last chance coming into the 10-11 season. The average age of the Mavericks' key players at that time would be 32.8 years old. An age, if where one of them were to be injured, it wouldn't be considered a reach to call it retirement. Nowitzki would lead those members, playing each game like it's his last, and as a result, he would hit a career high of 51% in shooting, and would lead the team to the playoffs, coming third in the Western Conference, going 57 wins and 25 losses. As expected, 2 key players that were 30 and 33 years old were seriously injured in the regular season, and were not able to play or play to the fullest. Nowitzki, not knowing when they would sink, would take the steering wheel of the Dallas Mavericks and lead them to the first round of the playoffs against the Portland Trail Blazers. The first 2 games were home games, and Nowitzki would score the most points out of both teams and take the victory by a landslide. But in the next 2 away games, Dallas would have the upper hand in the majority of the first half, but the Blazers would catch them off guard and turn it around in the last half and lose the game. And the recent few years, they've had times when they were eliminated in the first round, so it felt more pressuring. Nowitzki did not want to go through that again, and his teammates definitely felt the same way. So in order for Dallas to not make any more mistakes, they used every part of their body for defense and offense. And also when the starting members were on the bench resting, the bench players backed them up successfully and won the next 2 games and advanced to the second round. And awaiting them were 2-year consecutive champions looking for their 3rd championship, Kobe Bryant and the LA Lakers, starting the first game with an atmosphere where everyone expected Kobe to win. Dallas was trailing the Lakers by 16 points. But after a timeout, the Maverick players regained their focus, and the head coach explained their game plan, and so opened the door for Nowitzki to start scoring again and turn the game around. And there, Kobe would miss the buzzer beater 3-pointer, giving the Mavericks the win. After that, Dallas would take the second game, winning by 12 points, bringing the Lakers home for the 3rd game. Lakers would bring their A game and would play aggressive offense and had the upper hand coming into the 4th quarter. But the Lakers had fallen into Nowitzki's trickery. He knew that his shooting ability brought fear to his defenders and used that to his advantage, making defenders double team him so he could pass the ball to an open area for his teammates for three-pointers. And so that strategy worked according to plan, and the Lakers would be shook after the rain of three-pointers and would lose that game. And in the following fourth game, Dallas would really make it poor by shooting down 20 three-pointers, winning by a 36-point difference. Breaking everyone's expectation, Dallas would sweep the Lakers, and Nowitzki would lead them to the third round. Now it's time to fight for the Western Conference Championship, and the opponent would be the much-anticipated young three players that would potentially lead the NBA's future in their team, Oklahoma City Thunder. They would also have the scoring leader for 2 years in a row and was currently playing in his prime, Kevin Durant. The key players on both teams' average age difference would be close to 10 years, and they showed how savage young players could be by playing fast and aggressive offense. But that was all they had. Dallas may lack physical strength and speed, but the Mavericks were clearly more experienced veterans, and for the Thunder's young defense, first time being in the third round would get taken to school by Nowitzki in the first game. His shooting average was at 80%, and he hit all 24 of his free throws and got a total of 48 points, and his teammates got more than 20 points and 11 assists, clearly showing the power of veterans. But Oklahoma's players were skilled without any doubt, and showed that by taking the second game, making it tied 1-1. But in the remaining games, Nowitzki would absolutely demolish them, especially with his signature one-legged shot and the clutch shots he had made in tight situations, with 1 to 2 point gaps, took the advantage away from the Oklahoma players and left them frustrated, taking them to overtime, and scoring 40 points that game while leading 2-1 and taking the third game as well. And after that, they won the fifth game at home and finally took the title of the Western Conference champions. It's been 5 years since they've had this opportunity, the NBA Finals, and on the other side, the Eastern Conference champions, the same opponent that took the championship from the lopsided finals in 2006, the Miami Heat. Miami's roster had become even more fierce. The player that gave Nowitzki the pain of loss, Dwayne Wade, and two-time-in-a-row MVP LeBron James joining the roster. No team in the West stood a chance against them, and everyone expected Miami to take the championship for sure. But Nowitzki had no interest in any of that. He was more focused on moving forward, knowing he was running out of chances in his career due to his age. And so the much-hyped NBA Finals first game would be away, the tenacity for the ball and the key players' will to score. And the will to guard each other on defense in any way possible seemed quite even. Nowitzki, with all the pressure of the defense guarding him, did not fluster and was scoring on point, proving why his name was that known. But Miami took the win, and because of how aggressive the game was, all the Maverick players' bodies were completely worn out, and even Nowitzki had strained his finger, leaving him injured as well. But that didn't matter. With the will to win at least once away, he entered the second game. Being more desperate than ever, Nowitzki scored frantically, but with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, a wave of frustration had hit. Dallas could not stop the power of LeBron and Wade and would fall behind by 15 points, leaving everyone with the thought of another Dallas defeat. But there was one person that did not give up. Dallas bench player Jason Terry took the lead and scored valuable points, making his teammates burn with adrenaline. From that, Nowitzki would find it in him to make a clutch shot that would turn the game around and take Game 2 for the win. In the third game, both teams were going back and forth like a seesaw, and Nowitzki would score the most points out of both team players with 34 points, but could not get a clutch shot like he did in Game 2. It would lose Game 3, leaving the series at 1-2. And to make things worse, Nowitzki had caught a serious flu, fevering up to 39 degrees. As he was dizzy and coughing, Wade and LeBron pulled a childish act and made a mockery out of Nowitzki's symptoms. But all that did was motivate Nowitzki and the Mavericks. Nowitzki, showing signs of sickness in the beginning of the fourth game, swore that he would not be made a fool of, and with the help of his teammates, took on Miami to the fullest and made a clutch shot that he failed to do in the third game, with only 14 seconds left. After taking the win with the flu and injured finger, Dirk Nowitzki and players from both sides entered the fifth game with only one purpose: to take the flow of the game. And so, the teams went back and forth, taking turns leading the scoreboard, making all the NBA fans not be able to move a muscle, and the score would be 100-all, and it was hard to bear that tense atmosphere. But that's when Nowitzki would start to break the balance of the game with a dunk that would make Miami's defense show signs of cracking, and the rest of the Mavericks saw this as an opportunity and pounced on it, and just like that took the game for the win. Now, having the advantage leading 3-2, and using that adrenaline, the Dallas Mavericks headed into Game 6 with the atmosphere winning, and used all the energy they had on offense and defense, and as a result, they had become the 2011 NBA champions. Dirk Nowitzki was picked as the MVP for the finals, unanimously, and finally for the first time in 13 years brought a championship to the fans and to all the people associated with the Mavericks that believed in him and followed him. And now, he doesn't have to carry a guilty conscience with him, and instead, he can now enjoy what he has accomplished. Eight years have passed, and there have been a lot of things that have happened. With the one thing, the championship Dallas had ran for was achieved, their statistics dropped. It would not make it to the playoffs, and even if they did, would be eliminated in the first round. And Nowitzki would have a knee injury, leaving Dallas in an even darker era. But this veteran's dedication for this team has not changed, and after recovering from injury, he made a vow to not shave his beard until the team's win rate was at 50%. And he kept that promise, recording 41 wins and 41 losses, and also cutting his salary so young rookies and prospects could grow and even worked harder. Even in his late 30s, his one-legged shot was still lethal, accurate, and considered unstoppable, and would still make clutch shots that would change the pace of the game. After continuously making points, he would hit the 30,000 point mark, a record where past legends and many other players would applaud to. And from the stands, Nowitzki's mentor and coach Holger Geschwinder, watching his apprentice overcome the promise he had made with him a long time ago, and the thought of making it this far was deeply moved and bursted in tears. And after that, Nowitzki's playtime decreased, but did the best he could on any role that was given to him. And as time went by, April 9th, 2019, his retirement was held in front of his home fans, his NBA role models, his teammates, his fans, the association, etc. While Nowitzki was giving his speech in front of all of them, he was deeply moved and could not control his emotion and eventually shed a tear. And the one that started his new life in Dallas would follow each and every game whether they win or lose. His best friend, the owner of the Mavericks, Mark Cuban, would give Nowitzki a warm hug. The next day, he would play his last game, and it'd be an away game, and Dirk Nowitzki would officially retire. And for all the years the fans had followed and loved him, his 21-year career would finally come to an end.